we're going to talk about, oh, wait, no, gotta do my intro. Hello, Maddie here. We are talking today about The Martian by Andy Weir, I think is how you say his name. Weir, it's Weir. I want to talk about this book because I always want to talk about it more than people allow me to because they've seen the movie and they're like, oh, just like how do they compare? Which I don't mind having that conversation. It's a very good conversation. But this book is crazy sauce. It's so bizarre and I love it. And it needs to be appreciated for its craziness. The premise of the book is there is a space mission to Mars and crazy things happen. And they have to like emergency leave and they think one of the people is dead. So they like leave him behind thinking he's already dead. And then he's not. And then the entire book is, can we keep him alive until we can get back to him? It's so bizarre. And so the person that gets left behind is like the plant person. And literally, Andy Weir would get bored in meetings and like come up with crazy concepts. And he was like, this is literally the concept for the book. What if someone was stranded on Mars and literally everything went wrong? Would they live? That's the concept for the book. And what's so good about this book is, one, great concept. Two, everything in it, all of the math, science, centrifugal force nonsense is accurate. He worked with like actual like NASA scientists to get everything correct. So this was literally, the book is basically a simulation of, I'm thinking like Sims is like if you set up certain parameters, like what happens over time. That's kind of what this is. He's like, let's set up a simulation and see what happens. And that is what The Martian is. It is one of the most stressful books I've ever read. But right now, this book gets the Maddie guarantee. And we know why books get the Maddie guarantee. It's because it has a happy ending. So, for all the stress that you'll go through, it will end good. But I highly recommend this book because, one, just like the concept craziness. Two, preparing you in advance. Almost exactly every 30 pages, something goes wrong. Almost exactly every 30 pages. So it is 384 pages. That's approximately, we're going to round down to approximately 12 things going wrong. Now, I don't know the exact number. I may be off. But I would say pretty safely 10 to 12 things go wrong throughout this book. And it is fantastic because you know it ends well. You know it ends well. You know it ends well. That is why I'm recommending it. But on top of that, it is so funny. It is so funny. You have this poor man who is stuck on Mars and like all the things he has to read and watch are what him and his other crewmates like picked for their like minimal amount of space and stuff. So he like ends up watching reruns of some like 60s or show or something that his top person had. And it's hilarious. And it's so funny. And there are a few explicit moments in terms of words used, but I'm not a person that really cusses. It's just not really my thing. I don't really like it. However, I, for the most part, don't have an issue with people cussing if it serves a purpose. If you're just cursing, you just sound dumb. Honestly, like your sentences stop making sense. But if you're a smart cursor, then it really drives a point home. It really does. And that's what happens in this book. It's so funny and so ridiculous. All these things this poor man has to go through just to be alive. And to be fair, I think anybody in his situation would act the same and say similar things. There are specifically two things I want to say. Okay, well, I wanted to say what the first line of the book was, but I'm not signed into our Nook, so I can't pull it up at the moment. But it's really funny. I'm pretty sure he curses. With my blogs, I always included a quote, and I want to do that more because I love quotes. I think they can really drive a point home, especially if I'm talking about a book and I can choose a moment, a phrase, a passage from that book to reiterate the things that I'm saying. I'm like, why would you not do that? So I want to let y'all know the quote I put at the end of my blog because it's hilarious. They get to a point where him and NASA can like kind of talk to each other ish. Me, this is obviously a clog. How about I take it apart and check the internal tubing? NASA, after 5 hours of deliberation, no, you'll F it up and die. So I took it apart. Because it's one of those things where it's like, they can tell him no, but it's like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? He's on Mars. So he just does it anyways. And it's so funny. It's so funny and so good and so interesting. It makes the little science math nerd inside me just super happy because I love numbers, I love math, I love science. It's a little annoying sometimes when things like happen and you're like, that's not how physics works, but like, okay, suspension of disbelief. And for this, it's like, no, that's exactly how physics works. And it's awesome. It's so cool. And how just smart this guy is because he is the like least educated, I guess, of the crew because he's like the botanist. But he's just so smart and inventive in the way the things he thinks of to keep himself alive is like mind blowing. And I would have died so much quicker. If I'd gotten chosen in the first place to go, I would have died so fast. But he doesn't. And he somehow, in all of the craziness and the stressfulness, you know, he's not happy-go-lucky laughing the whole time, but he manages to keep a sense of humor about the ridiculousness of the situation. You know, he doesn't almost let it get to him because it's like, this is literally my reality. And we're going to do what we can to change that. But like in this moment in time, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. And this is what we're doing about it. And, you know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And like literally what else can I do? And so, you know, he gets stir crazy, things like that. Like any normal person would feel. But he doesn't necessarily lose himself. He doesn't necessarily, he doesn't go crazy. He doesn't get, you know, obnoxiously angry at the situation. He doesn't devolve into this caveman-like character. At each moment, reacts to what's happening and adjusts. Reacts and adjusts. Reacts and adjusts. And through enough reaction and enough proper adjustments, it gets us to the ending that we want. And it's so completely worth it. So like I said, it's one of the most stressful books I've ever read, but it is so rewarding. There's honestly no really good way to summarize this book because so many things happen. Besides just saying, there's a guy stuck on Mars. Will he live? Because half of it, I couldn't even explain if I wanted to. I couldn't. Because it goes way over my head. I can read the words, but if I had to re-explain it to somebody, I would not be able to do that. So that's what you get with this. That's the hackneyed summary you're getting for The Martian. It's hilarious. It's stressful. It's worth it. You should read it. It was a family book of the year a while ago, and that's why I read it, because it was stressing me out. And I would not willingly read a book that stresses me out the way that it stressed me out, but I'm so glad I did. Again, harking back to why we do family books of the year is get you to read books that you wouldn't read normally. Books that you feel very passionately about, that you want to share with others, but that they wouldn't necessarily pick up on their own. The Martian is an excellent example of that. It looked good and funny and I wanted to read it. It is unlikely I would have gotten to a place where I was like, yes, let's stress ourselves out for 400 pages. That's just an unlikely scenario in my world. But when I am trying to accomplish a task like reading the family books of the year, which I've done a horrible job of this year, and we're already halfway through the year, I need to get on that. I've read my own book. Does that help? So I read this book because I didn't have to. It's not this like requirement, but it's a suggestion. It's encouraged. And it's something I really love. That's all I really have to say. Oh, like, comment, subscribe, all those wonderful, wonderful things. If you've read The Martian, I would like to know your favorite quote. If you have not read The Martian, but you do read The Martian, I want to know your favorite quote. I want to know the moments that you laugh out loud, because books that can make you legitimately laugh out loud, not just like a huh, but like a crying, laughing, holding your stomach laugh. I don't know why, but I feel like that's harder for books to accomplish. But this book so does it. You're just staring in disbelief at like, what is going on? I don't understand, but like we're here for it and we're just rolling with the punches. And it is fantastic. Oh yeah, but like, comment, subscribe, comment all the things that make you laugh, or the things that maybe went over your head mathematically and scientifically, because like I said, it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's so cool that knowing that it is accurate makes it a million times cooler of a book. Honestly, because you can write fiction all day long, and science can do any science you want it to science in fantasy and fiction. It can. As ridiculous as it may be, science can be anything. But I guess you would call it science fiction. Interesting. So he did not have to go through all the work and the effort to get all the math right, but he did. And that just makes it so much cooler. Circle back to the very beginning. Whenever I don't get to talk about this book as much as I would like, because people are always like, how does it compare to the movie? This is what I say. The movie does almost exactly what every, I would say, decent adaptation of book to movie does. It gets you where you're going. It gets all of the main points, but it misses stuff. So instead of there being like 10 things that go wrong, I think it's like 3 or 5 things go wrong in the video. It's probably closer to 5. So things go wrong, but they don't have enough time for something to go wrong, because it'd be like every 10 minutes something would be going wrong. And in 10 minutes, you can't solve the last problem just to go into another problem. So it's a really good adaptation in that you don't get all the craziness, but you get most of the craziness. It's a very good balance of book to movie adaptation. And so if books aren't your thing, if you are not willing to stress yourself out for 400 pages, I would honestly recommend the movie. If I remember, the ending is different. Like, it's still a good ending, and like Maddie definition good, but it's a little bit different than what actually happens in the book. And it was like literally why, but it all ended up fine, so I didn't really care too much. So, but that's a good alternative if you're not a reader, if that's just not your thing, if it's really hard for you to get into books, which I understand, like it can be really difficult to willingly sit down and read almost 400 pages, or something goes wrong every 30 pages. That can be difficult. But if movies are your thing, 10 out of 10 would recommend. So, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter video. I hope that's cool. I talked really fast. Hopefully not too fast. Hopefully you kept up. So, with all of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great night, great week, great weekend, great month, great year. I hope you have all of the greats, because you're truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, bye. 再见. Saying goodbye in French is like awful, so I just don't do it.